Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Echo Your English. I'm happy you're here with me today. I hope you're feeling relaxed, comfortable, and ready to spend a little time improving your English in a calm and natural way. Today, I want to talk about something that can completely transform the way you learn and use English. It's a topic many learners worry about, struggle with, and sometimes feel guilty about. Today, we're going to explore how to think in English and how to finally stop translating in your head. I know this is one of the biggest frustrations for learners. People tell me all the time, I want to speak fast, but my brain is too slow. Or they say, I understand English, but when I try to speak, I translate every word and it takes forever. And I get it. It's such a common experience. You listen, you study, you try so hard, but when it's time to speak, your thoughts feel stuck behind a wall of translation. It's like you're trying to speak through a long tunnel, and everything gets slower and heavier. But the beautiful thing is this: thinking in English is not something magical. It's not a special ability that only certain learners have. It's a habit, a mindset, a gentle shift in the way your brain handles language, and you are much closer to it than you think. As you listen to me right now, your brain is already processing English directly. You aren't translating every single word. You're understanding naturally, smoothly, almost without noticing. That means the ability to think in English already exists inside you. We just need to help it grow stronger. And we're going to do that slowly, calmly, step by step. I want you to imagine something simple. Imagine your brain is like a quiet room with two windows. One window is your native language, and the other window is English. When you try to speak English, your brain usually looks through the first window. It thinks in your language, then it tries to convert everything to English. This takes time. This creates pressure. But the more comfortable you become, the more your brain learns to look through the second window first. And one day, it becomes your natural window for thinking in simple, everyday moments. Now let me tell you a story. I once taught a student who had studied English for more than 10 years. She knew a lot of grammar, and she could read complicated texts. But when she tried to speak, she froze. She said she could feel her brain switching between languages like a broken machine. I asked her what she usually thought about during the day, and she said everything in her life was in her native language: her inner voice, her thoughts, her plans, her feelings. English only existed in her textbooks or movies. And that was the problem. You cannot think in English if English is not part of your inner world, your thoughts, your small moments, your everyday life. So we started very softly. I told her to think one tiny thought in English every day, just one. Not a sentence, not a conversation, just something like, I'm tired, or nice weather, or coffee. After a week, she began to think 2 or 3 small things a day. After a month, she suddenly realized she was reacting in English sometimes, without trying. When she made a mistake in the kitchen, she said, "Oh no, really?" without thinking. That moment changed everything for her. This is what thinking in English looks like. It starts small, it grows slowly, and it becomes natural. Many learners imagine that thinking in English means thinking in long, perfect sentences. But that's not how the brain works. Even native speakers don't think in long sentences. They think in short images, quick reactions, half-formed ideas. They think hungry, cold, call mom, late, traffic. And that's exactly how you can begin thinking in English too, with tiny pieces of language, not long structures.
One of the easiest ways to train your brain is to take small moments from your daily life and give them English names. For example, when you pick up your phone in the morning, you can quietly think, phone. When you feel tired, you can think, sleepy. When you drink your first coffee, you can think, nice. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need long sentences. You just need tiny sparks of English inside your mind. There's something magical about these small thoughts. They connect English with your real world, not with a textbook, not with rules, not with a classroom. And when English becomes part of your world, your brain stops translating. It stops trying to switch between languages. It stops worrying about mistakes. It simply experiences the moment in English. You could also help your brain by talking to yourself, not in a big, dramatic way, but quietly, softly, almost like a whisper inside your thoughts. If you're cooking, think, cut onions, stir, smells good. If you're brushing your teeth, think, almost done. If you're choosing clothes, think, blue shirt or black one. These small personal thoughts are incredibly powerful. They slowly build a new mental pathway in your brain.
Another thing that helps is letting English be the first language you hear in the morning, or the last before you sleep. If you listen to something calming, maybe a story, maybe a podcast, maybe even this channel, your brain starts to absorb the rhythm of English. It begins to feel familiar, warm, safe. When English feels safe, your mind starts to think in it more naturally. I also want you to be patient with yourself. Thinking in English is not something that happens overnight. It grows like a plant, slowly, quietly, day by day. But every tiny moment counts, every small thought, every gentle attempt. And you should celebrate each one because these tiny victories are the steps that lead to true fluency. What I love most is that once this habit becomes stronger, speaking feels different. You don't feel like you're translating anymore. You feel like you're expressing, you're reacting, you're living inside English instead of standing outside it and trying to enter. And that feeling is so freeing. It takes away pressure. It takes away fear. It makes English feel lighter, almost like your friend, not your assignment. And yes, you will still make mistakes. That's normal. That's natural. Even native speakers make mistakes all the time. Mistakes don't stop you from thinking in English. They don't stop you from improving. They don't stop you from communicating. The real enemy is not mistakes, it's the fear of making them. So today, I want you to try something simple. After this video, choose one tiny thought from your day and let it appear in English. Just one. Then another one later. And slowly, English will become a soft background inside your mind, a quiet voice that grows stronger each day.
And maybe right now you're thinking, but my English isn't good enough to think in it. I want you to pause for a moment and really hear this. You don't think in English because you're fluent. You become fluent because you think in English. It's the other way around. Thinking in English doesn't require advanced grammar or a huge vocabulary. It requires only a small space in your mind, a space where English is allowed to exist without being judged. A lot of learners don't realize how heavy translation becomes. It feels safe because it's familiar, but it slows you down. Think of translation like carrying a large suitcase everywhere you go. Every time you want to say something, you have to stop, open the suitcase, look for the right word, close the suitcase, and then continue. It's exhausting. But when you think in English, it's like walking without luggage. You feel light. You move naturally. You don't stop every 2 seconds to check something. And you know what's interesting? Sometimes you don't need to find the perfect word. You can use a simpler one, and people will still understand you. Instead of exhausted, you can say very tired. Instead of confusing, you can say, I don't understand. Instead of frustrated, you can say, I feel bad about this. Simple English is real English. Simple English is natural English, and simple English is the doorway to thinking without translation. Another beautiful moment that helps your brain switch into English is when you feel an emotion. Maybe you're excited because of something good that happened today. You can think, I'm happy. Maybe you're irritated about something small. You can think, this is annoying. When English becomes the language you use to express how you feel, even just to yourself, you form a deeper connection with it. That connection is stronger than any grammar lesson or vocabulary list because it links English to your emotions. You can also try describing what you see around you, not out loud, just in your mind. Look at your room and let a few English words appear. Desk, light, window, quiet. Or when you're outside, traffic, cloudy, fresh air, busy street. Describing your surroundings in English is like opening a small window in your mind. Through that window, English becomes a part of your environment, not just something on the screen or in your notebook. Here's another secret. Your brain loves patterns. When it hears the same phrases often, phrases from real conversations, stories, podcasts, it starts repeating them automatically inside your thoughts. You may begin hearing little echoes of English in your mind, especially after listening to this channel. This is one of the most natural ways to start thinking in English, by absorbing sound patterns and letting them replay inside your head. You don't have to force them. You just listen, and your mind does the rest. One more thing I want you to understand is that your inner voice doesn't need to speak fast. Thinking in English can be slow, gentle, even a little messy. Your thoughts can be short and simple. Your grammar can be imperfect. But the moment you allow English to exist inside your mind in any form, you are training your brain for fluency. And I promise you, there will be a moment, maybe months from now, maybe sooner, when something surprising happens. You'll be doing something ordinary, washing dishes, walking home, getting ready for bed, and suddenly a small thought will pop into your mind in English, and you won't even notice it at first. It will feel totally natural. And that is the moment when you'll realize everything you're doing is working. Your brain is changing. Your English is growing from the inside. So don't rush the process. Don't force your thoughts. Don't demand perfection. Instead, create gentle invitations for English to enter your mind. Let it sit there quietly. Let it grow. Let it become part of your daily atmosphere. When English becomes something you live with, not just something you study, thinking in it becomes as natural as breathing. And I want you to remember something important. Nobody hears your thoughts. Your inner voice is the safest place in the world to practice English. There is no judgment there, no pressure, no embarrassment, no mistakes that matter. When you think in English privately, you build confidence quietly. You prepare yourself for real conversations without fear. It's like training your mind in a calm, protected space where every effort counts. Some learners feel frustrated because they understand English in their head, but the moment they try to speak, everything becomes difficult. And often the reason is simple. They never trained their thoughts. They studied, they memorized, they repeated sentences, but they didn't allow English to live in their inner voice. Speaking becomes easier when thinking becomes easier. Thinking becomes easier when you create small English moments throughout your day. Imagine you're waiting for the bus or train. That short, quiet time can become a small English moment. You can think, I hope it's not late, or there are many people today, or I'm feeling sleepy. These little thoughts create the habit. They teach your brain that English is not something you use only in a classroom, but something you can use in the silence of your everyday life. You can also use English to think about your plans. What are you doing later today? What do you need to buy? Who do you want to call? Think in simple phrases like, I need to finish my work, or I should clean my room, or maybe I will watch a movie tonight. These are real-life thoughts. And when your real-life thoughts start appearing in English, you become someone who doesn't just learn English, you live in it. Another powerful technique is to use English when your emotions are strong. When you feel anxious, you can think, I'm nervous. When you feel excited, think, this is great. When you feel tired, think, I need rest. Emotional thoughts stick deeply in the mind. Your brain remembers them. And the more emotional your English becomes, the more natural it feels inside you. There's also something beautiful about noticing English around you. Maybe you see English words on signs or product labels or social media posts. Instead of ignoring them, let your mind whispers the words silently. Even reading short sentences in your head counts as thinking in English. Every small moment strengthens the pathway. And don't worry if your thoughts feel slow. Slow is normal. Slow is good. Slow means you're being conscious. Slow is the first stage of fluency. Imagine learning to drive a car. In the beginning, everything is slow. You think about every step. But with time, your body learns the rhythm and driving becomes automatic. Thinking in English works the same way. Slow thoughts become faster thoughts. Hesitation becomes flow. There is a beautiful moment in language learning when you start trusting your brain. You stop questioning every sentence. You stop translating every word. You stop checking if you're right or wrong. You simply speak. You simply think. And the truth is, your brain knows more English than you believe. It understands patterns. It remembers sounds. It learns quietly when you aren't paying attention. If you give it space, it will surprise you. Sometimes you'll notice that after listening to English for a while, like in a podcast, a movie, or even this monologue, your mind stays in English for a few minutes. Thoughts come a little faster. Words appear without effort. That feeling is the beginning of fluency. And every time you experience it, you strengthen it. The more you listen to natural English, the more your mind copies the rhythm. The more you read simple English, the more your brain accepts the patterns. The more you think small English thoughts during the day, the more your brain begins to choose English without hesitation. Little by little, English stops being a foreign language. It becomes a familiar sound in your mind, a familiar feeling, a familiar voice inside you. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to push yourself hard. You just need to allow English to exist in your thoughts, gently, naturally, slowly. And if you do that, I promise, thinking in English will become your new normal. And maybe one day, when you're not even trying, you'll notice something special. You'll be doing something ordinary, tying your shoes, walking through your home, checking your messages, and a tiny English sentence will appear in your mind. It might be something simple, like, I should hurry, or I forgot my keys, or I'm hungry. And you won't force it. You won't plan it. It will just appear naturally, quietly, like a small spark. That spark is the moment your brain begins to trust English. It's the moment English becomes a language of instinct, not translation. People often think that fluency is about speed, but fluency is actually about comfort. When you feel comfortable thinking in English, your speech becomes clearer, your ideas become smoother, and your confidence becomes stronger. You stop worrying about each word and start focusing on what you want to express. You stop calculating and you start communicating. You become more like yourself, but in English. And that's really the goal of language learning. Not to sound perfect, not to sound native, but to bring yourself into another language without fear. Thinking in English helps you do that. It connects your thoughts to your voice. It makes speaking feel less like a performance and more like a natural extension of your mind. There is something else that helps a lot. Stop trying to build sentences in your head before you speak. Many learners do this, and it slows everything down. Instead, let your words come one by one, the same way they do in your native language. When you speak your own language, you don't plan the whole sentence in advance. You just start, and the rest follows. English works the same way. When you let go of control, your brain relaxes. And when your brain relaxes, your thoughts begin to flow. You'll also notice that the more you think in English, the more your accent softens naturally. You start copying the rhythm, the melody, the pauses, the way native speakers hold their words. Thinking in English isn't just mental, it's musical. It helps your voice adopt the natural patterns of the language without mechanical practice. And people will notice the difference. Not because you sound native, but because you sound more natural. Another beautiful benefit of thinking in English is emotional clarity. Sometimes, English allows you to express feelings in a cleaner, simpler way. Instead of complicated emotional explanations, English often gives you short, direct phrases like, "I'm sad," "I'm confused," "I'm proud of myself." These simple expressions help you understand your own emotions. And when you use English to talk to yourself kindly, your relationship with the language becomes deeply personal. You'll also begin to think in English when you imagine things. Maybe you picture a future trip. Maybe you daydream about a new job. Maybe you create a little story in your mind. These small imaginations are powerful because they invite English into your creative world, not just your logical world. And creativity is one of the strongest ways to build a foreign language inside your mind. So the question becomes, how do you invite English into your thoughts more often? The answer is simple. Not easy, but simple. Every day, choose one moment where you decide, I will think about this in English. It can be something tiny, like choosing what to eat, or something bigger, like thinking about your goals. That one moment opens the door. And once the door is open, English begins to walk in by itself. You don't need long periods of thinking. Even 10 seconds are enough. 10 seconds becomes 30. 30 becomes 1 minute. 1 minute becomes a habit. And habits become identity. When English becomes part of your identity, even a small part, you will feel a shift inside, a sense of confidence, a quiet feeling of, I can do this. And that feeling is worth more than any grammar rule or vocabulary list. So today, I want you to choose one small moment, one small thought, and let it happen in English. It doesn't matter how simple it is. It doesn't matter if it's slow. What matters is that you allow English into your mind with kindness, patience, and curiosity. This is how you stop translating. This is how you start thinking in English. And this is how you become the English speaker you want to be. Slowly, gently, naturally. And when you start creating these small English moments, something else begins to change too. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to see that you don't need to know everything to think in English. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to speak fast. You just need to show up again and again with small, gentle steps. And every time you make one of those steps, you are teaching your brain a new way of living with the language.
Some days, thinking in English will feel easy. Some days, it will feel slow. That's normal. Some days, you'll notice your thoughts flowing smoothly. Other days, you'll feel stuck and tired. That's normal too. Language learning isn't a straight line. It moves like breathing, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow, but always alive. The important thing is that you keep going, even if your progress feels invisible. Because the truth is, progress is happening inside you all the time. Right now, while you're listening to this voice, your brain is forming connections. Your mind is learning new rhythms. Your inner voice is slowly adjusting to the sound of English. Even when you aren't speaking, even when you aren't practicing, your brain is absorbing. It's growing. It's preparing you. And one day, you'll sit down with someone, maybe a friend, maybe a coworker, maybe a stranger, and you'll start speaking. And you'll notice something different. The words will come a little faster. The sentences will feel a little smoother. You won't pause as often. You won't translate every single idea. You'll simply talk. Maybe slowly, maybe simply, but naturally. And it will feel good, almost like a quiet surprise, like discovering a new part of yourself. This is the real reward of thinking in English. You stop fighting with the language. You stop feeling nervous inside your mind. You stop feeling like English is a wall you need to climb. Instead, English becomes a window you can look through, a window that opens to new ideas, new conversations, new parts of your identity.
And you know what? You deserve that. You deserve to feel confident in the language you've been working so hard to learn. You deserve to feel free when you speak. You deserve to enjoy English, not just study it. And the moment you begin thinking in English, even in the simplest ways, you open the door to that freedom. So as we slowly move toward the end of this gentle session, I want you to imagine yourself 1 month from now. Imagine how different your relationship with English could feel if you think one tiny thought in English every day. Just one. Imagine how much smoother your inner voice will sound, how much lighter you will feel when you speak, how much more natural English will become in your daily life. You don't have to do everything today. You don't have to learn fast. You don't have to memorize thousands of words. You just have to choose small English thoughts again and again until they become part of who you are. So before you go, take a breath with me. A slow one. Inhale and exhale. And in the quiet space after that breath, let one small English thought appear in your mind. Anything. Something simple. Something true. Something that belongs to you. That tiny moment is the beginning of fluency. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this gentle English session and you'd like more calm, natural English learning,
make sure to subscribe to Echo Your English. I'm always here to help you grow, to guide you, and to make English feel like a warm and friendly part of your life. I'll see you in the next episode.